Hola amigos, buenos días. This is JP this from Tequila Partners, and today I'm going to teach you how to taste tequila like a pro. First, you can notice I have my 4 classes of tequila here, or types: blanco, reposado, añejo, and extra añejo. We're missing the joven, but that's kind of like a confusing class, so we're not talking about that. And the cristalino, well, some other time maybe. Today we're gonna explain how to taste, because there are several steps that you need to know before. First, of course, it's where we are tasting. So the glass is very important. As you can see here, we're using a Riedel glass. The Riedel house created this glass especially for tasting tequila a couple of decades ago, and now it's a standard in the industry. Most of the distilleries will have these kind of glasses, or at least some similar design, to taste their tequilas at their facilities and in their expert panel where they taste all of the batches that they produce. Having a glass like this is important because the traditional glass for sipping tequila historically has been the caballito, or shot glass, even in Mexico. But the caballito, it presents some difficulties to appreciate tequila, because first it's very, very thin and it's short, so the mouth is really, really thin too. So when you drink it, or normally shoot it, your nose is not engaged in the action of imbibing the tequila, of drinking it and appreciating. So you lose a lot of the aromas. So as you know, aroma is a most important part when tasting something. Taste, it's in our tongue, and it's whether it's sweet, it's salty, it's sour or bitter. And you can appreciate, or umami also, as the Japanese would tell us, those feelings we can experiment them or experience them, perceive in our tongue. But all of the, as we call, flavor comes from the mix of the taste and the aromas of what we are drinking or eating. So why is this important? Because we need a glass that has a wide base to hold our liquid and to allow oxygen in there, and a thin mouth, but not so thin that you cannot engage your nose in it. While we're tasting, we need the aromas, the alcohol in there, to just get in our nose while we are drinking at the same time. That's why it's so important to use the Riedel glass or some similar glass like this one. There are some professional glasses that tasters use that don't have a stem. It's okay, that's also fine. Some people don't like to grab their glass directly where the liquid is holding because they think it might warm it a little bit. And if you have a too warm drink, that's not ideal. You need a perfect temperature to taste also your tequila. We don't chill it very much, but at least it has to be a little bit cool, not warm, because if it's very, very warm, then some of the compounds in there, very volatile alcohols, could prevent you from actually experience or evaluate and sense what it really is in the tequila. So as you can notice, I have my tequilas here that are all covered with a coaster. What we do if you are tasting and you're pouring your tequilas with many time in advance, what you can do is cover it with coasters, because tequila has many compounds and many of them are very volatile. So some alcohols in there and some substances and compounds that are in the tequila, if you leave them open like this for some time, then it will start losing some of its characteristics. So you won't be able to fully grasp what's in that expression of the tequila that you're tasting, that particular liquid or brand. So we're gonna go with the process of actually evaluating and tasting a tequila. First is the sight, the color, what we see in it. And it's important that when we evaluate, we hold our glass like this, a little bit inclined directly to us, and we can see the pool of liquid it forms and the reflection of the light on the sides. We need a white background. In this case, we have this desk here that's white, so it's easy for us to appreciate the reflection on the light of the light in our glass, and then we can start to judge and evaluate, describe the colors that come out of those reflections. In this case, I'm holding a blanco, and each expression or each type of tequila is gonna have the particular colors or palette of colors that you can find in there. But it is up to you to tell what's in this. So I'm not gonna describe this particular tequila right now. I'm just gonna show you how to do it, and then you can train. You become a master tequilero too. So we're holding it like this. We watch the reflection of the lights and we see the colors. But also, while analyzing and evaluating the visuals of a tequila, we need to evaluate the viscosity or the body. And how we do this is we swirl our liquid around a little bit in the glass, and we allow it to wet all of the walls of the glass, and it sticks in there. We can see how the drops of the tequila are forming there, and they're slowly coming down, forming what we call as legs or tears. Of course, some may say that in some glasses the liquid may not stick properly, so the body is not fully yet evaluated in the visual. The body would also be evaluated in the mouthfeel. If you feel it greasy or the unctuosity, that you can feel it when you have it in your mouth, and you can just rub it in there. You rub your tongue on the top of your mouth, and you can feel that if it's a little greasy or not, if it's dry. That's part of the body. That's what you evaluate in the part of the body of a tequila. The aroma is what we will evaluate next. It is very, very important. This part of the tasting, it's what will give you the promise of what you're gonna find in the glass. Whatever you're perceiving or smelling in this tequila, all of the aromas that we will find there, we will expect them, we are expecting to find them when we taste the tequila, when we're drinking it. So the aroma creates this expectation of what we'll find when we drink this. To evaluate the aroma of a tequila, it's important to mention that this is spirits. Spirits are, in particular tequila, between 35% ABV and 55% ABV, alcohol by volume. This is the range where the Regulatory Council of Tequila allows a spirit to be called tequila, along with all other things that makes a tequila. So we need to keep in mind that it's high proof, or compared to a wine or a beer. So we can't just stick our noses in there and have a very, very big whiff of it, because the volatile compounds and the alcohol will hit us hard. And so we need to be cautious how we smell and how we appreciate the aromas. So first, how we do it is, we have our glass covered, and you can either remove the coaster and smell it right away, like a professional, we do it like this. And while we're smelling, we need to keep our mouths a little bit open. So we allow some of the air in there, to fluctuate. And that's when we appreciate most of a drink. But why do we cover it? Because we need some of the compounds that are in there are very volatile. And if we leave it like this, then it would lose some of the characteristics if it's open for too much time. After, we can swirl it, so we allow some oxygen in there. And now we go back and smell again. Another time. And tequila will be evolving to time. It's important to distinguish the different parts of the glass. If you're smelling on top, you can find some things. If you're smelling on the bottom, you can find different ones, because there are some compounds that are lighter than others and will just fly a little bit faster or higher, and some others that will remain in there a little bit more heavy and will stay in the bottom of the glass. So we need to kind of do a little bit of the discovering all around the mouth of our glass, like from top to bottom, right, left. Some people even say that the side where you are facing, also, if it's right or if it's left, it can affect what you perceive in the tequila. Me, I'm not a particular fan of that theory, but that's an interesting fact. Now that we are smelling tequila and we swirled it, we can swirl a little bit more and go ahead. We need to understand the process of tequila in order we need to understand the process of tequila in order to know what we're gonna find in the aromas and where those aromas come from. If you've been to a tequila distillery, you have had the pleasure of smelling cooked agave, freshly cooked agave. Or going to the agave fields, you've experienced the fresh green agave, recently harvested. So you can describe or you can differentiate what the green agave smells against the cooked agave. And inside the distillery, all of the fermentation aromas that are in there, and after in the distillation too, and the first distillation if it's alembic, and the second distillation. So you need to understand all of the process of tequila to appreciate what the aromas are in there. Every spirit has its wheel of aromas and flavors that you can find in there. Tequila is the most complex spirit in the world, and that's why I'm in love with it. So you can appreciate the aromas of the green agave. A tequila can be herbaceous, can be fruity, can be dry, and you can perceive all of that. And some tequilas are inclined to be more fruity, some others are more herbaceous, some more mineral, and those are like big categories where we could use in general to describe a tequila, and then we go from there. We take it down from a general perspective to a more particular one in case of this one. You can find some minerality, very citrusy, very fruity also, and it's a well-balanced mix, but also evolves. So the fun part of tasting tequila is that when you start tasting it, you can find some things, but some minutes after or moments after you started, then you can find different nuances and you can describe these things to your friends. And also, of course, it's a matter of training. So having not just 4 different types of blanco, of tequila, but having 2 types or 3 kinds of blanco and taste them and perceive the aromas side by side. Go from one glass to another, and then you can tell the differences. That's when you start to gain more experience and to train your nose and train your brain to identify those aromas. So our brain has all of these categories of aromas and classified in them in different small boxes, and we need to pull them out of those boxes when we are smelling. So when we are smelling, we need to remind what this smells that is very complex and mix what we can find in our brain that reminds us of that particular smell, whether if it's a fruit, a herb, a flower, and all of those kinds of smells we can find in a tequila. And to me, cooked agave is very present in this one, but also some spices, some cinnamon, some anise, and it will depend on the kind of tequila that you're tasting again. After perceiving the aromas of a blanco, you can describe some things that you found in there. Of course, it's going to be very different than when you perceive the aromas of a reposado. So now we're going to do the reposado side by side of a blanco, so we can compare a tequila that has been aged in a barrel or in a pipon, or it's a big wooden tank where reposados are allowed to be rested. Compared to blanco, there are going to be some differences to a reposado, and of course to an añejo or an extra añejo. Let's go with a reposado. Now we can find the aromas of the aging in there, the wood, the char inside of the barrel, some vanilla, some chocolates, coffee, and different kinds of aromas that you can find there. Not only limited to this one, there are unlimited. Tequila is known to have more than 500 congeners in there. It means the aromas or the compounds that create the sensation of aroma and flavor in our mouth. After we've perceived the aromas that we find in the tequila, we have an expectation about what the liquid will hold for us, how good is it going to be. If we like how it smells, we will expect to like what we taste in here. So it's important to remember that this tequila is at 40% alcohol by volume. So we need to get our tongue and our mouth prepared for it. So first, what we do is we take a small sip and we wash our mouth with it. Our gums, our tongue on top of the mouth. Now this is a warning sign for my mouth that an alcoholic drink is coming, so get ready, prepared for the deliciousness that it's getting. As you can see, I took a bigger sip and held it a little bit in my mouth, then I exhaled with my mouth open. When you do that, you let some of the compounds of more alcohol to just go out. If not, if you hold them, it's gonna cause a little bit of burn in your nose. When you become a pro, you can hold it like that. If not, you can use it. Breathing is a very important technique while tasting. So we need to deep breath, then sip, and then exhale. It's important to notice that when we exhale through our nose, we can also perceive aromas when exhaling. That's what we call the retrogusto. The retrogusto is important because it gives us a second evaluation of the aromas that we perceived before we were drinking it. Now the tasting comes to a full experience, full sensorial experience. The nose, the mouth, the feel inside. Now all of those things come together to evaluate what we have in our glass. But We have swirled this glass many times so we can allow the oxygen in there and evaporate so we can perceive the aromas. And this has created that this has modified a little bit of tequila. So the best thing to do it is just discard this tequila and pour a fresh drink so you can fully experience it. You discard this, pour a new one, and then do it again. And you will notice the difference. You would say, and you can find when a tequila has been already over-oxygenated or evolved a little bit too much and has lost the essence. This one, I've been swirling all the time. So now it smells different than when we started tasting. After this, it's better if you just discard it and use another one. Well, it's a sin to discard tequila, so you can also drink it full. This is the añejo. I'm gonna taste the añejo to explain the differences that you can find in blanco or silver tequilas and aged expressions like reposado, añejo, or extra añejo. We discover uncovered glass, appreciate all of the volatile compounds that are there, concentrated. Smell. Always smile when tasting is important. Exhale. Now we can find in aged expressions that the drink becomes a little bit smoother, like wood softens the drink, the spirit a little bit. And what we can find are all of the aromas of the aging inside of the barrel, but also like the flavors that we can find lean or tend a little bit more into the sweeter side. So when you have an aged expression of tequila, you will find it normally sweeter than the blanco base. It's important to remember the base that we are tasting. Keep in mind that a tequila, an añejo or an extra añejo, was once a blanco and was filled inside a barrel. And when that aged 2 months for a reposado, 12 months for añejo, and 36 months for an extra añejo, when that time passes, then you find different characteristics in your tequila. Of course, the colors, the aromas, but in the taste, it's important to notice in our tongue which one remains after we have tasted it. This happens with the blanco too. Important to mention and to keep in mind while tasting, it's how long the flavors and aromas remain in our mouth and in our nose. That speaks of a good tequila that has a long finish that you can enjoy after. And even now when I'm speaking and talking to you, I can still feel the aromas in there of this great añejo, some tobacco notes, some coffee, a little bit of cinnamon, and it stays. It maintains, it lingers in your mouth. That is a characteristic of a good tequila. So, my friends, now you know how to taste tequila. You've been trained by a pro how to taste tequila, from styles of glass to the color, the body, the aroma, the flavor, the aftertaste or retrogusto, and different expressions of tequila. It's up to you to continue training. Keep up a journal, write down all that you find out in a tequila, or use an app like Tequila Matchmaker, where you can rate your tequila and you can describe there what you find. That will help you become a better taster and to help your friends pick a tequila brand that they will like according to their own tastes. Thanks for watching this video. Tu amigo JP Diz from Tequila Partners. Adiós.